Canadian Bulldog from Wrestling Merchandise and Memories, that's merchandiseandmemories.com, and today we're looking at 15 wrestlers who had day jobs. Just before we get started, wanted to let you know that Wrestling Merchandise and Memories has more than 100 unique and conversation-starting top 50 lists on its site. Check it out at bit.ly/top 50 lists. To be clear, when we say wrestlers who had day jobs, we're not talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin bagging groceries down at the Kroger or China being a sous chef, and if they ever were, hey, no judgment. But this more means wrestlers who had day jobs as part of their gimmicks. This is by no means an exhaustive list of those, but we thought we'd highlight a few of them here. We kick things off with Duke the Dumpster Droese, whose gimmick was that he was, you guessed it, IT systems analyst. I'm kidding. You should have seen the look on your face. No, he was a garbage man, and in 1994, Duke began competing in the World Wrestling Federation. In the weeks leading up to his debut, Bobby Trashley bragged that he was going to clean up the WWF of all its trash. Did he succeed in this mission? Well, no. At his best, Johnny Garbage Gano had some minor feuds with the likes of Jerry the King Lawler and Hunter Hearst Helmsley before being kicked to the curb. See what I did there? When you think of early signees to All Elite Wrestling, you think about Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, Chris Jericho, and yes, the Librarians. Peter Avalon and Leva Bates were day oneers for AEW because nothing strikes more fear in the heart of opponents than a pair of competitors that shush you and tell you that your copy of A Time to Kill is overdue. Predictably, Avalon had a long losing streak in AEW that included an endless series of matches on Dark against Brandon Cutler, which the Librarian ended up losing. The duo split after that, and hey, I'm putting myself to sleep just by talking about this. While we're sitting here boring ourselves, let's talk about the wrestling accountant. In 1991, Mike Rotundo returned to the World Wrestling Federation under the name Erwin R. Shyster, which, oh wait, that stands for IRS. Why would his parents name him that? Mind you, this is the same guy who named his own kid Husky Harris, so. In the vignettes leading up to his debut, Taxwell Jacob Friedman would chew out fans for not paying their fair share of taxes to the government. But I do have to wonder if he ever audited fellow wrestler Michael Wall Street, who I have to think used his fair share of tax loopholes back in the day. Around the same time that Shyster was running audits, the Mounty invaded the WWF looking for rewarding part-time work. Formerly known as Jacques Rougeau, he was no longer a proud resident of Memphis, Tennessee, and instead became a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, also known as the Mounty. In the vignettes leading up to his debut, the Mounty made American visitors to his country look like complete and utter fools, which, by the way, is something all of us Canadians secretly aspire to, and insinuated that his law was the only law to be abided by. With Jimmy Hart in his corner, Dudley Do-Wrong even held the prestigious Intercontinental title for one day. What profession may be more hated in some circles than the Popo? That's right, teachers. In 1995, Shane Douglas returned to the WWF after a main event run in ECW and essentially took the character that put him on the map and gave it attention for about a year while he became Dean Douglas. In vignettes, Douglas took us to Carlito Caribbean School, okay, that one was a bit of a stretch, by grading his opponents and giving them a report card. Still, the Dean would go on to win the prestigious Intercontinental title and hold it for about 20 minutes. Speaking of teachers, how can we forget about Matt Striker? Striker joined WWE in 2005, but prior to that, he was an actual school teacher who was suspended in real life for moonlighting as a wrestler. While his WWE career wasn't particularly lengthy, he did spend some time as both a commentator and a manager. In 1996, we had a wrestling plumber in the form of TL Hopper, with TL standing for toilet lid and Hopper being an alternative phrase for the crapper. Had his parents only named him TL Lawyer, I wonder if he would have gone on to a more rewarding career. Flush Funk came to the ring wearing a dirty undershirt and the requisite plumber's ass crack while threatening opponents with his dirty plunger. However, this fabulous free turd didn't even make it to a pay-per-view, unless you count the SummerSlam pre-show where he found a piece of duty in the pool and proceeded to eat it. You know, like all plumbers do. We just mentioned lawyers, so now is the perfect time to mention Smart Mark Sterling. Unlike Clarence Mason before him, Sterling is both a manager and a wrestler, so he counts for this list. Barrister Corbin joined AEW in 2020, where, in addition to managing people such as Jade Cargill, he dons the trunks to sentence competitors such as Danhausen and Hook. Unfortunately, Saul Badman's win-loss record isn't exactly sterling. Hello, ladies! Val Venus was a hallmark of the Attitude Era, debuting in the WWF in 1998 as a movie star of the adult film variety. In vignettes leading up to his debut, Evan Porn showed off his acting prowess, working with Jenna Jameson and other stars of the genre that, if my wife asks, I've never heard of before. Byron Sexton had a decent run of success in the Federation, capturing the Intercontinental, European, and Tag Team Championships, as well as, let's be honest, an STD or two. One of the original wrestlers to have a side hustle was Brutus Beefcake, who decided in 1987 that being a Chippendales-esque grappler with a dumb alliterative name wasn't quite enough, so he became Brutus The Barber Beefcake. Wanting to learn the intricacies of his chosen craft, Montel Vontavious Barber went to the world-renowned expert Sal Fedora, who apparently taught him that the best way to cut hair is to use oversized gardening shears after knocking people unconscious and performing his unique brand of barbicide. Straight Razor Ramon had a lengthy career in the WWF and even had his own barbershop talk show before Shawn Michaels ruined the damn thing. But Beefcake couldn't hold a candle to Rico, the personal stylist of Billy and Chuck. In 2002, Rico appeared on WWE television and gave the world the unique fashion style of spiky blonde hair and headbands with each man's name on it. How avant-garde. AJ Hairstyles would eventually dump his clients to take over the careers of 3 Minute Warning and even hold the Tag Team Championship himself on 2 occasions. Isaac Yankem, DDS, was the first character in wrestling history to make patients open wide and say, "Ah!" The Future Kane debuted in the WWF in 1995 as Jerry the King Lawler's personal dentist, with the sole purpose of helping getting revenge on Bret the Hitman Hart. Following that feud, R-Tooth languished in the Federation for some time, but here's hoping he at least gave The Undertaker a friends and family discount. Mind you, Yankem isn't wrestling's only dentist. Dr. Britt Baker DMD joined AEW in 2019, and her dental designation isn't just kayfabe, she's a legitimate tooth puller by trade. But beyond having a short-lived talk show and calling her finishing move the lockjaw, CM Plaque has more to her character than just flapping her gums on the mic. Well, if you ever take a trip down to Cobb County, Georgia, you better read the signs, respect the law and order. Even though Big Boss Man was a prison guard and not a police officer, he seemed to have gone mad with power during his WWF run. Finn Balor had a great career in the World Wrestling Federation, feuding with the likes of Hulk Hogan, Ted DiBiase, and Bobby the Brain Heenan, but he never seemed to quite get that using handcuffs, a nightstick, and a ball and chain to his opponents were somewhat outside of Lanarka's job description. And finally, we're going to look at one wrestler who had not one, not two, but 3 different day jobs. After trading in his Soviet sympathizer gear and dropping his heavy metal face paint, Barry Darsow became Repo Man, a man who wore a Lone Ranger-style mask and delighted at stealing other people's cars and property in the dead of night. Vince Repo Man also took delight in strangling opponents with his tow rope on occasion. Following his run as Thief Cassidy, Darsow headed to WCW, where he became known as the Black Top Bully, a loudmouth truck driver complete with red sleeveless tee, MAGA hat, I'm assuming, and air horn that he used to distract his opponents. The highlight of this mother trucker's career was battling Dustin Rhodes on the flatbed truck, which ended up getting both men fired. And finally, he became Mr. Hole-in-One Barry Darsow, a golfer gimmick that never quite got out of the sand trap that was WCW Saturday Night. Dorfon Golf never competed in a major company after that fiasco. Well, what did you think? Are there any wrestlers with day jobs that we missed? Leave a comment below and be sure to thumbs up and like this video and subscribe to Wrestling Merchandise and Memories for much more great content.